Impatient people, and the unfortunate factor is that there's billions of people, literally billions, that want to come in. Not everybody can come in at once, otherwise we don't have a country anymore. So
I gotta ask. I want to hear your. I didn't want to interrupt you. So you're all finished. Do you guys have doors on your homes?
Yes, I actually just want.
But I gotta follow up this. Just hear me out. You have doors on your homes, and you lock them at night, don't you? You secure your home at night to be secure, because there are dark people out there, like he mentioned. And that's the thing we have to do as a country. We have to respect that. There are dark elements in the world, and we have to protect ourselves. Go ahead. Thank you.
I was just going to say that, like, this country isn't, like, our private property and all that. I think that's where the main differentiation is like, where we come in, and, like, the United States is just, like, it's our domicile, and I have, like, my couch and my TV over here.
But it is. Yes, it is. It's American territory on American values.
Well, I don't like thinking about it in terms of, like, private property. Like, land is not a private commodity.
Sure it
really
is.
I mean, we've made it into a private commodity, like, under, like,
okay, so what would you prefer? Can we sit down?
Were you? I thought y'all were like planning on.
We're thinking about going, but you're bringing up a great point. I'd really like to hear your thoughts.
Well, I actually had another question. Are those two like how did you all meet like before?
I'll answer that, but I want to hear about your property statements. I'm really curious because you're the first person who's actually like been willing to explain stuff to me. Your views on this.
Well, I mean, for the first thing, it's like.
So you don't believe in private property?
No, I do. I think like because it's like we're at a stage in late capitalism where it's like we can't just suddenly like.
You think we should head back? Do you guys want to stay? Me and him can head back?
Okay, give them a report. We're safe. They didn't hurt us. They just blocked us from seeing the event. You can show them the video.
Okay, well I gotta stick with him. You're gonna be on your own, buddy.
I'll be fine. Okay.
No, I know.
I trust him.
Fine, but I just want to know where you're at. Okay.
Okay, give me about 10-15 minutes. Okay. So I'm giving you guys a time limit because I'm sure you got other things you want to do. Please do. Because you'll need them when you go and represent. Okay, so 15 minutes, and maybe we'll shorten it so that you can go to other activities. So really quickly, so you believe in private property, but land doesn't fall into that category.
Did you know that no Native American...
Well, I just want him to answer, and then if
had a word for private property?
I mean, it's like when did this how and why, or this is a question for you maybe. As,
like, okay, this is what you wanted to ask me.
Response and all that. It's just like, it's like, when did like American land become like American land? Like what makes American land American land?
That's a great question. This country was founded as, a lot of this was, for lack of a better word, virgin territory. I know that when you had the Pilgrims, and then there was, I think 1607, there was the Jamestown. Roanoke was a disaster, 1500s. I think they actually assimilated into the local communities. The Roanoke community in South Carolina. Yeah.
Like, because you say virgin, what do you mean by virgin?
Virgin, that nobody lived there.
Oh, Native Americans totally lived there.
No, they didn't live everywhere. There was a lot of land that was arable and unused. So that's the first thing.
They maybe didn't have like.
And there were certain tribes that actually traded. There were certain that Iroquois. They had 5 nations. They had a clear political structure.
Yeah, like several hundred years later. Yeah. Okay,
that's correct. And I would have to submit to you though that the culture you see coming out of the West, which respects men and women as individuals. I remember. I hope I'm not going into something that's mythical, but. There was one group of settlers. Squanto was already there in that region. I think it was in Massachusetts, what it's called now. And he even greeted them in English. He had been all over the world himself.
He had met like all these people, established colonizers.
And there were the local inhabitants who helped. Wampanoag, I think, is one group. They helped the Pilgrims, so they were established. Yeah. The Thanksgiving dinner was a real thing. And let me tell you,
it's like a 3-day festival.
Yeah, 3 days, and with family. And also, this concept of private ownership allows everybody to prosper. The Pilgrims tried a socialist contract. You can read it in Bradford's Chronicles. And they starved. 60% of the original settlement died. But then the native populations taught them how to raise crops, sirs. I think I'm correct. They were farmers too, don't forget. So they were agricultural people when they came here. They were fleeing for religious liberty. And they cooperated with the native populations. Keep also in mind that there were native groups that were attacking each other fiercely. There was the Pequot War of New England. There are historians who don't even know about this stuff.
Native Americans aren't all like one homogenous group.
Exactly. Yep. And there's some that believe in private property and some that don't, actually. But I would submit to you that this country has great wealth and worth because of private ownership of property. Yep. And that's why I agree with it. And you have Native Americans, and I mean that in the sense of indigenous, for lack of a better term, Aboriginal, if you will. They own property, and many of them wanted to thrive in peace. The Constitution recognizes tribes as separate nations.
Yeah. So have you heard the term like property rights framework? I think you were that's what you're sort of like.
Tell me about that.
Well, the property rights framework is essentially just that it's like the U.S. was founded on this idea that like assigning inherent value to like land, know,
Certainly.
and, like, all that, like,
and Native
agriculture.
Americans did that too, by the way. Apologize. I interrupted you.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like it differed like greatly in how like early like mercantilist economies and all that viewed like necessarily like it was more about like the goods and the trade and the flows of
Mercantilism is a government interventionist system, by the way. That it's supposed to.
Yeah.
It's an imperial system.
I wasn't making an argument for like whether or not.
Oh, to
like,
support it?
private,
Okay.
Yeah.
It is distinct from free market capitalism. I want to make that very clear.
Definitely, it was very much.
Okay.
Progenitor
So
before.
do you feel that this land has been stolen in some respect? Is that their argument?
I definitely feel that it wasn't like necessarily like fairly assigned, like, you know, because when we say it's like it's private property that like this land belongs to somebody, it's like it wasn't given to settlers by Native Americans. You know,
A lot of it was just plain settled because there was no one else there.
we didn't have like the legal like systems and codes to necessarily say like this is what private property is, this is what isn't private property.
That had to be developed as more people came.
And that developed like after the land was already taken.
I don't agree with that. I think it depends on different situations. I'm not trying to be flippant. The Manhattan. I know I'm getting. I don't know the tribe names, but the Manhattan. There was farmer. I think it was a farmer from Denmark. Actually, just want to make sure I'm recording. Farmer from Denmark. His name was Bronx or Bronke, I believe.
Yeah.
And so they were able to trade. I think they traded with the wrong tribe, and that's what created problems. But there was a concept of ownership, nonetheless. So there's that. Let's not forget that there was assimilation among Indians and Americans. That happened as well. The Cherokee Nation, they adopted Western customs. They chose to.
Often out of necessity and survival. Because it's like they wouldn't have been able to make.
But they also had a script. They were able to become literate. Writing is so crucial to developing of cultures.
They did have their own system of writing.
And I'm operate. Yeah, they did. And the gentleman, I don't remember what his name
Sequoia.
is. Sequoia. Thank you.
From his daughter.
He had a great picture.
His daughter was 6.
So there you go.
His daughter was 6 years old, and she came up with the written form of language. It's so cool. Yeah.
But I would have to submit to you that I think that, and I am going to recognize a religious bent. We're a Judeo-Christian culture, and Judeo-Christian values have allowed everybody to thrive. In a lot of other cultures, human lives are diminished or devalued. We see private property not respected. It diminishes our life. It diminishes our culture and our society.
I have a question. We're Judeo-Christian culture. What religion do you practice?
I'm actually agnostic.
You're a what?
Agnostic.
Okay, you don't know.
Yeah, I don't particularly align with.
That's what I'm just telling you. That's what agnostic means. Yes.
And I'm Zen Buddhist and agnostic. And
How can you be both?
well, because Zen Buddhism is more of a
about deities.
it's more of a traditional line of values than about deities.
And now we're getting to a fundamental question. And this comes to not just beliefs, but truth. Where did we originate from? How did we get here? And the more that we can articulate those ideas better, then a lot of these conflicts start to phase out. The first universities were seminaries. For example, they were seminaries. Harvard, Yale, and Princeton were seminaries.
Both of you at the same time. I'm sorry.
So I'm just telling both of you that was an announcement. But you had a question. I'm sorry.
Oh no, yeah, you're totally right. Western universities here were.
And I think Western culture
is
is the best. I really do. Because it enhances the quality of life for men, women, and children.
Sure you do
Even
with
if
that.
we don't share values, you don't get killed by me if we don't agree. Hindus right now are attacking Christians in their country too. So it's not just Muslims.
For being Hindus here.
I'm sorry?
Hindus are being killed for being.
But it's
Hindus
not
here.
government policy. And it's not in line with the values of our country. So, I remember...
I'm glad that you believe that. I'm really, really, really.
You're making a
happy about
distinction also between like how government policies influence like state sanctioned murder, correct? Like, and I think like when sorry, I'm going to circle back to the refugee thing again. I think a lot
That's
of
fine.
like, Muslim folks who are fleeing Muslim countries are escaping from violence that their state is inflicting upon them as well.
And it's not just the state, though. It is the religion. If you look at the Quran, and I've learned from it. I haven't read the whole thing, but I've read enough parts of it. And to recognize abrogation, there's an old Quran, there's a new Quran. There's abrogation. Old verses are pushed out. If you're a Jew, you're considered an enemy.